President has another appointment, so he'd like to make his presentation at this time. Brothers and sisters, brothers and sisters, I apologize for changing the program, but we started a bit late, but I had already scheduled another appointment for 11 o'clock. So I need to speak now and allow the podium to go on, so please forgive me for disrupting the flow of the program. But Derek Phillips, Chairman my brothers and sisters, Brother Simeon, Silas, Lassie, other officials from the Rastafari community, visitors from overseas, my brothers Ras Tom Nalgeti, Sister Yania Christian, Ras Richard Taylor, my dear sister, Fendi Kayan, special invitees, visitors from overseas, members of the media, my brothers and sisters. This morning I'd like to address specifically what I was asked to do, that is to discuss the question of reparations, especially in the Caribbean. It is a subject close to my heart, largely because in many parts of the Caribbean, this issue is being ignored and understated. It is difficult to understand why something which is so important, not only to our history, but to our future, should have such little impact on our day-to-day life. I must confess that many people know very little, and they care very little about the issue of reparations, and as a result, the movement is going forward very slowly. And I do hope that we can move much more quickly, and I would compliment the Caribbean Reparations Committee for being involved in convening this symposium today and in the work that we've been doing over the years. I hope that as a result of this meeting today, we'll be able to move much more quickly so that we can bequeath to our children and grandchildren what we ourselves did not inherit in terms of reparations from the Europeans. My brothers and sisters, the transatlantic trade in captive Africa was the worst crime against humanity in the history of the world. The Caribbean itself was the scene of two of the world's greatest crimes against humanity: the genocide of native peoples and the transatlantic trade in captive Africans. Two crimes which involved the slaughter of millions of people. The trade in captive Africans involved the shipping of millions of Africans to the Americas and the Caribbean. The atrocities, the barbarities, the cruelties, and the indignities associated with enslavement are unmatched in human history. The transatlantic trade lasted for more than 400 years. Never before have so many suffered so much and for so long in so many states in the Western Hemisphere. The Caribbean, the region from which we come, has not been without conflict and without struggle. But we must not forget that the African people were not the only ones to suffer. The indigenous people were decimated by European colonization in the early decades. The indentured immigrants from India after emancipation in 1838 were also exploited on the plantations of the Caribbean. African emancipation in 1838 dismantled the institution of enslavement. The abolition of Indian indenture immigration was celebrated right here in Guyana 100 years, we celebrated the centenary of the abolition of indentured immigration. But to the African people of the Caribbean, the demand for reparations represents a quest for justice, particularly justice for the Europeans who did these terrible things to our forebears. Reparative justice is a just and is a necessary cause. It must be pursued with unwavering commitment. But first of all, there must be consciousness. All of us, Africans and non-Africans, must be aware of what we're talking about when we speak about reparations. The world needs to know. The people need to be conscious of the crime of enslavement. Public education, therefore, is essential. Our parents must know. Our brothers and sisters must know. Our children must know. If we are to mobilize people at the personal, at the national, at the regional and international level, it is not a secret for a little group. It must become public knowledge. It must be something that we speak about in public, in our radio programs, in our Facebook communications, in our email messages, in our publications, our pamphlets. Reparative justice will not be achieved unless we spread common consciousness about this crime. My brothers and sisters, Guyana and the Caribbean must be prepared for a sustained campaign to convince the international community and Europe in particular. Because when you look around the Caribbean today, you still see traces of the Dutch Empire, the British Empire, the French Empire. And these were the people who colonized the Caribbean. That is historical fact. That is not a question of prejudice, it is a fact. We therefore need to sensitize the international community of the legal and moral obligation for recompense for the offenses of enslavement, the offenses of genocide, and the offenses of the oppressive character of indentured immigration. Public consciousness through public education in support of reparative justice must be heightened. Public education initiates the enhancement of consciousness for the achievement of justice. International ignorance and intransigence to reparations will yield results only through unrelenting regional agitation. Domestic solidarity by national reparation committees such as we have in Guyana will bolster our collective advocacy at the international level. The world must hear our voices. The world must hear a collective voice from the people of the Caribbean. We suffered first. We suffered first. Christopher Columbus landed 525 years ago in the Caribbean, in the Bahamas. We know the spot. We felt the first impact 525 years ago. And we must not let the world forget that. Not North America, not South America, the Caribbean felt the first impact. Public education must tell our children and grandchildren that. Must tell the world that. Public education implants in the public mind the legal and moral basis of the legal demand for reparation. It answers the question why, after more than 500 years, the demands for reparative justice still have not been met. Public education indicates the precedent in support of reparative justice. It lays the foundation for international advocacy and education. It elucidates the grounds, the legal and moral grounds on which our case stands and establishes the righteousness of our cause. My brothers and sisters, the Caribbean's case for reparation is based principally, but not solely, on three grounds. First of all, enslavement and genocide are crimes against humanity under international law. Crimes against humanity can be prosecuted at any time. There's no limitation. If it was done 5 or 6 or 7 or 10 years ago, it can be prosecuted at any time. There's no statute of limitation. The Convention on the Non-Applicability of Statutory Limitations to War Crimes and Crimes Against Humanity was adopted by the United Nations since 1968, and it provides that no statutory barrier shall apply to crimes against humanity, whether they were committed in time of war or in time of peace. So we stand on firm ground. Second, the massive expropriation of wealth, which was the patrimony of our original people during the commission of these crimes, enriched Europe. That wealth was generated through forced labor. That wealth caused the impoverishment of those who produced the wealth. That is the great paradox. And thirdly, colonization, enslavement, genocide, and indentured immigration left a legacy of underdevelopment. That legacy could only be overturned through corrective justice. You go around the Caribbean and you'll see down in the gully, we're not a rich people, but we, through the labor of our forebears, have made other people rich. My brothers and sisters, the region, as a consequence of European conflict, European conquest, and European colonization, became the weakest and most balkanized region of the world. You go around the Caribbean, you see old cannon, old forts, old military bases and camps, show how people were fighting for hundreds of years for these islands. Our economic structures still bear the stamp of plantation economy. There's a high concentration of our economic expert on the production for export. In fact, most of our capitals are ports through which we exported our products. Port of Spain, all these are ports which allow the wealth to be taken overseas. So, my brothers and sisters, when we speak of reparative justice, this is not a trick. This is not a device that we use to get international handouts. It is a demand which is aimed at ensuring compensation for crimes which have been committed. Compensation for enslavement and related genocide. Compensation for the atrocities of indentured immigration. The demand for reparative justice, therefore, must not be confused with development assistance. That is something separate. Reparative justice concerns the legal obligations of states. States have a legal duty to acknowledge and address widespread and systematic human rights violations in cases where the state caused the violations or did not seriously try to prevent them. Reparations publicly affirm that victims are rights holders entitled to redress. That is what it is all about. The victims and their descendants are entitled to redress. They are not begging for favors. Reparative justice not unknown in the world, and certainly it is not unknown in Europe. Britain paid compensation to sugar planters for the loss of what they call property. That is, when the slaves were freed, the British planters were paid compensation. So Britain understands what compensation is about. But they did not pay the persons who were victims of enslavement. They did not pay the people who were forced, even after 1834, for 4 years, to continue to provide free labor to the very people who were enslaved. That is why we don't recognize 1834. We recognize 1838. 1834 was a bogus freedom because our forebears had to continue working for 4 more years. And of course here in Ghana we have Martha Damon, who after 1834 raised a flag of freedom and was arrested and hanged for his trouble. Even more recently, Britain paid compensation to the victims of torture during the Mongol struggle in Kenya. Japan paid compensation to several countries for its aggressions, invasion, and suppression of occupation during World War II. Germany paid reparations to allies after World War I and World War II. Germany also agreed to pay reparations to Israel for the slaughter that took place during the Holocaust. My brothers and sisters, this is a serious matter. This is not a sideshow. We need to spread consciousness about reparations. This is not a racial struggle, this is a struggle for human justice. Crimes of enslavement, crimes of basic genocide, and the crimes committed during indentured immigration have not been redressed. There has been no recompense for the dispossession for the development of the Caribbean, which resulted from these crimes against humanity. The descendants of the colonized people of the Caribbean, therefore, are correct in their call for reparative justice to right these wrongs. The victims of these crimes against humanity have never had the benefit of an apology. They have been deprived of justice. Justice for the crimes which have resulted in the loss of millions of lives, in the expropriation of wealth, and in the legacy of underdevelopment which we still see around us. My brothers and sisters, with these few words I wish to repeat how happy I am and how honored I am to have received the invitation to be with you this morning, however briefly. Thank you for coming to Guyana, for coming to this campus of intellectual achievement of academia, the UG campus, and for agreeing to meet to exchange views about this important matter of reparation for the greatest crime against humanity. May God bless you all. Thank you.